From across the comic book community multiverse, the Comic-Con podcast begins now with your hosts, Justin, aka Nemesis Prime.
If you give them the title of influencer, then that's giving them more power, right? That's how it is. Like, I'm a nobody. Listen, I'm a nobody.
Zack, aka the Manimal.
We talked about it for a full, I believe, 7 to 8 minutes on an hour-long normal podcast for a show. And you would have thought we set their house on fire with the backlash. So,
what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Comic-Con podcast, season 3, episode 40. Recording this on October the 4th, 2023. Your hosts, Nemesis Prime and Milton Manor, are in the building. And we're kind of like in sync tonight, Zach. I feel like we're bringing the band back together, little boy band action. We got a lot of people here.
Yeah.
We're going to get to it, but what's going on, man? How are you?
doing good, dude. It's Wednesday. There's not a lot of news, so it's a good thing we have some guests to kind of like help us out and move the conversations along. But dude, real quick, what the hell? No news, right? Like this is not. And Wednesdays are always a little dry, but this seemed like especially dry.
Yeah, super. You all know how we do. We go online, Zach and I. We try to find articles to talk about things that are not super massive that's going on, whether it's movie or TV stuff. But yeah, man, I couldn't find anything. CBR,
dude, boycott CBR also.
Well,
everyone.
That too.
Boycott CBR. Like now you have to pay to read their garbage shit. Like it's bullshit.
It was very odd, and it was just absolutely crazy to try to find anything. I couldn't even find anything on like the main articles, like Marvel.com or DC or Image. Boom, everybody. They were all like completely off the wall. So, but before we
NYCC or something, maybe I don't know.
Yeah, it's just crazy. I'm sure that's kind of like what's going on, but. Let's kind of introduce all of our panel guests tonight, because we definitely do have a lot, and we're still going to try to keep it to around an hour. We're not going to go 3 or 4 hours like most channels, even though you have that time. Sure. Let's start it off with one of my fellow brethrens over in Staten Island, Mr. ComicDunes himself. Jeff, how are you? Welcome back to the show.
Thank you guys for having me. I'm doing well. We are gearing up for our booth at Comic-Con. We also just bought into a comic book shop in northern Jersey. So we've had our hands full the past couple, I'd say about a month or so. Yeah, that's pretty much it. But you hear me complain about it pretty much every day. So yeah. I mean, for everybody else, if you're in the area, please stop in. It's called The Jam Comics. And we got a website. Google us and check us out.
We'll put that all in the description. Yeah, you've definitely had a lot going on since the last time you were on here. So that's awesome. So yeah, between the store and NYCC, you're definitely doing your stuff. Next up, we have our man Greg, Rocksteady Collectibles, all the way up in Canada. How are you, Greg?
I'm well. I wish that people listening could see that we all wore matching facial hair today. I thought that was really cute, guys.
Well, I mean, we do have Cesar Romero over here as well, so
we all went Tony Stark goatees today in honor of our fifth guest. Or third guest, I guess, fifth person.
Third guest, fifth person, whatever we got. But thanks for jumping on, Greg. Appreciate you coming back on here, because we definitely have some good stuff to talk about. Last but not least, I just don't know how to make fun of him tonight, so we'll just go with Newbie Comics. How you doing, man?
What's going on? U.S. Canada takeover. I guess it's not really a takeover because you guys are American, so maybe just a Canadian takeover. But thanks for having me on. Yeah, it's a weird week, right? The only thing news-wise or what everybody's talking about is foil. So I'm sure we'll get into that. But let's get the show going.
Of course, what are we currently reading? It's going to be kind of our starting off point, because I want to get through this real quick, and then I want to get into everything else. So let's kind of go around the horn real quick. Whether it's one title or two titles, just pick a title or two that you're currently reading. Something maybe that you picked up this week that you liked, or something that you didn't like. So let's go with Newbie. Got anything that you're currently reading?
Bowman 23 Chrome. That's what I'm reading right now. 0 comics in probably the last 2.5 weeks for me.
Why is this guy on the show? Why is this guy here?
I don't even know why he has a YouTube channel. Like, that's stupid.
Yo, listen, I just got into cards. Jeff kind of pushed me. But lately, no, I've just been doing a little bit of cards. My comic stuff is on hold for now. But like I just said before we went on air, I'm going to go hunt very shortly. And, there's a few shows coming up here. So, it's not like I'm not doing comics.
No, I really
Sounds
don't
like you're
think you
not
do
doing
comics.
comics,
Let's
yeah.
let's stop. Let's stop real quick. All right. So you have a YouTube channel. You go live every Tuesday.
That's right.
With Rocksteady and Black
That's
Crown
right.
Comics.
That's what he said. That's
You
right.
talk about comic books that are coming out. You talk about articles. You talk about all this stuff. Yet you don't read comics.
I haven't been reading the last like little bit. I haven't picked up
6 months.
anything. No. I haven't been picking up anything for probably about a month and a half now. Yeah,
Since
just
the
been
card
busy.
season started.
Since
Oh,
card
okay.
season, yeah. But you got to remember too, I, just moved into a new house. Got all the renos, all that stuff. So I'm a little busy, man. Like, look at my
Reading's
facial hair.
hard.
Okay.
I'm a mess. So.
Yeah, we could see that. We could tell. All right. Let's go over to Jeff. Jeff, are you reading anything? What did you pick up? Anything you
You
like?
know what?
Whether this week, last week, whatever.
Yeah, I'm behind, but I'm reading Void Rivals. I told you I picked up the Transformers one, and then I got suckered in. I picked up like 7 copies of the Transformers one, which is, I don't do variants. I have the stack, and Justin was making fun of me, but I'm looking forward to that Energon universe. Not crazy about Void Rivals, but being a G.I. Joe guy, something just to, I can't wait till that #1 drops. But I did not read the Transformers one yet. I heard it was pretty good. To be determined, and maybe you have me on again. We'll talk about it. But that's what I'm reading now: Void Rivals and Transformers.
Nice. Mr. Rocksteady, what are you currently reading?
So there's a book out by Scout Comics called Tricovi. And it's kind of cool being in Edmonton because it's based in Edmonton. Kind of a criminal dealing with his past and trying to leave the criminal life, and other people trying to leave the criminal life. But it all kind of rolls around a bus crash. But it's like cool because you see your city inside a comic book. So now I know how people in New York or Chicago or those places that have a ton of comic books. It's really cool to see. So it's by a guy named Adrian Polarick, and he's from Edmonton as well. So that's the one I'm on right now.
Oh,
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, definitely little, local stuff you get to see. Obviously, yeah, here in, the States, obviously you've read tons of comics, it's funny, places that you've never been, more about like what New York looks like if you've read the entire Marvel universe, right? Like,
Or
Times
you
Square,
play like the Spider-Man video game or whatever, right?
Exactly. Cool. That's an interesting title. I could see. I know Zach's trying to look for it. So Zach, what about you? Quick stuff on the reads.
I feel like I don't know what you're going to pick. So I kind of, okay, I'm going to dodge away from what I think you might pick.
Okay.
I really like that Gods that came out this week. Gods #1 by Jonathan Hickman. I thought that was really cool. Obviously, everyone knows Hickman's kind of sometimes can be a little hard to follow his stuff, but I didn't really feel like that was the case here. And it was tricky because you're getting all these new characters that are supposed to seamlessly kind of fit in the Marvel universe, even though they haven't been there for this whole time. But you got characters like Strange knowing who they are. And I thought he did. Obviously, Hickman's one of the best out there in terms of like building universes and stories. But I thought he did like a very seamlessly good job of introducing you to these characters, getting invested in these characters without like, the one thing it was lacking from like typical Hickman, which I thought was good, was like the page of, dialogue, or not dialogue, but like of like writing, like a whole page of like, hey, read this essay that I wrote like in page 4.
Yep.
So I really liked Gods. I also really enjoyed the Ghost Rider annual this week. It had Elsa Bloodstone teaming up with Ghost Rider and Talia Warroad, and as well as kind of brought back the Hood, which I'm pretty sure we haven't seen a lot of the Hood and Ghost Rider interactions throughout their histories together. But it's a really great character, I feel like, that can play off Ghost Rider pretty well. So he's kind of like a supernatural type character, but he's not your typical Ghost Rider villain. So I'm hoping we see a little bit more of that. And it was cool. I really, really enjoyed that book. And then there were some really other ones I liked, but I feel like you might be talking about them.
So I'm definitely going to be talking about it. All right. So first up, I did get an advanced copy of Marcus from our man Scott Palachuk, who was on the podcast a few weeks ago. He gave me an advanced copy of Marcus #1. And, I even saw some of the art beforehand. And, I even said to him, and I said it on the podcast when we had Scott on, that it was very Capullo-ish.
Mm-hmm.
Like the art's right there. It's just, it's different because it's in black and white, right? And you all know me in art. Like I love art. I love the color. It was a little bit of a tougher read because I had to actually read it twice because I had to see like who the characters are. I couldn't kind of keep controlling of like who is who, even though there's not really many main characters introduced in this first issue. But with that being said, the storyline's amazing. You know,
Yeah.
when Scott talked about it, it's got a very good high ties to like the biblical side, and then even like the militaristic side. Like, you know, we've seen this stuff in, you know, movies or, you know, TV shows as far as like what's going on in the war, but in comics, like it's completely different, and like you get a good sense of where the storyline's going, like right towards the end of it, and it's something different, right? Zach, I don't know, did you get a chance to read it?
Loved it. I was gonna kind of do it. I'm planning on doing a little bit more of a review on it a little bit later, but yeah, loved it. Thought it was awesome, and I'm not just saying that because, you know, Scott's our buddy, but really good stuff. Honestly, try to pick it up if you guys can. I mean,
Yeah.
from
He's
what
gonna be at New York
Soldier
next week.
Publishing, and he'll have some copies up there as well. Yeah.
Yeah, he'll be at New York Comic Con. He'll have an exclusive variant over there and the copies. So yeah, so definitely that was an amazing read. I want to like go the reverse on You for Gods.
Okay.
I didn't really like it.
No?
I didn't like it because I felt like it's very, you know, you have the powers that be, you have the natural order of things, you have the guy, the girl, you have Win and whatever the chick's name is. And I feel like it's something right out of Void Rivals. I feel like it's something straight out of Saga. Like they're two different people that love each other but can't be together. I feel like it's just like a storyline that's already been there.
I get you. I can hear
the one thing that I didn't really like too much was the whole Babylonian event, or Babylon event, they call it. Like you're gonna have this huge, massive thing happen, and they're gonna completely take care of it in the first issue. Like it was just a little odd.
I liked how he was like, they were all stressed about it, and he's going on this like wild goose chase on like different, like almost like a grail quest. He's like, let me do this so I can do this. So I can do this. It was almost like Ocean's 11 kind of situation, you know, where he's like, oh, I'll do this, which will lead me to that, which will lead me to this. And then he just shows up and like wrecks it. I appreciated that because Black Panther, Captain Marvel, and all them getting their asses kicked, and this no-name dude just shows up and
they're just in the background. It's more the magic users that kind of get the forefront, but yeah, they're for whatever reason they're there, right? Like Amadeus Cho, like he's got a couple lines, and
that was weird.
It's really odd. But pick of the week, and I'm sure you knew I was going to be picking this, and Batman 138.
Oh, this is not what I expected.
Ooh, okay. You thought I was going to talk Transformers?
Well, that or Shadows of Starlight, High Republic.
Oh, yeah, no, I have to go Batman.
Okay.
Again, I'm not going to go through every book, but yeah, Batman 138 was, I don't know why. And again, we're going to get into this in the State of Comics, but literally this was probably one of the best Batman issues that I've read in years. Like this whole Gotham, Batman, Catwoman's Gotham War thing is just absolutely amazing. Like the whole thing that he does to Jason, like he's got a plan for everybody. Like I don't want to spoil too much of what he does to Jason, but I know Zach, you've read it. So it's just crazy. And then you have the whole thing where, you know, you have Nightwing, you have Tim, you have Damian, they're all in there and they're trying to weed Batman out of his own systems. And it gets to the point where it's like, Batman just doesn't care. Like he's like going to leave them all for like the police and like let them give up their secret identities. And then even towards the end, like he has like this moment of like, and you think about this like throughout the years, like Batman started this journey, this mission to be by himself, but he's taken in these people, he's taken in and becoming this family, and it's not something that he wanted to do, and he doesn't know how to get out of it now. But just there's so much stuff that happens in this issue that I feel like it's amazing writing. Like yeah, Tom King had his time, and you know Snyder had his stuff, and you know even before that, like the Morrison stuff has been so long, but like man, Chip is just crushing it right now.
He's doing something different. He's doing like there's levels and levels and levels of this. It's not just like your basic story where he's going against the Bat family. There's more to it. Like you said, it's more layered and intricate. But
things that he's built up with the Zara Batman and Failsafe and everything is all leading towards something. It's all integral into his storyline, which I like a lot. So yeah, definitely the Batman was amazing this week.
Well, real quick though, so before and Jeff kind of talked about it as well, but so Transformers, man, I really liked Transformers. I thought it was awesome. And I had I have an Ash can, but I kind of kept myself from reading that. And I know it's kind of been out, the story has been leaked a little bit. You can find it different places, but I really loved how it was like Transformers was so like spot on kind of with like the show, but a little different. You know what I mean? Like it played out like the show plays out, but there's little changes with like Spike and his dad and like which Decepticons awaken and which ones don't. And can I spoil? I'm going to spoil something, bro.
Of course, I know where you're going to go. Yeah, it's
dude,
fine.
When Starscream blasted Bumblebee in the face,
Right
that shit
in the
was
face.
epic, dude. Like, and I laughed and I was so happy. It was like my heart leapt. I like blew Bumblebee's stupid ass head off, and dude, I thought it was great. And here's what I love too about Transformers. And I know that you being a big Transformers guy is like,
You're gonna make me read it now.
Yeah, dude, read it. Is it's like when Starscream talks, I hear the voice from
The 80s, yeah.
the 80s, dude. It's like in my head. Like that's the voice I hear. And it's like the most annoying voice too. That fucking actor's voice. But it's so perfect, dude. I loved it. I thought it was great. I'm excited.
Yeah, I liked it for a lot. I definitely enjoyed the whole
Oh yeah.
the whole Starscream, you know, basically destroying. And I think what's going to happen is he's going to end up becoming Goldbug, because that's the same storyline that happens in like the 80s cartoon and stuff like that. I just didn't really like it because it's like, part of me doesn't like it because it's like kind of rinse and repeat. Like,
Yeah.
it's basically Transformers from the 80s, like the cartoon, the Marvel stuff. Like you know, there wasn't like it's a reboot, yes. But I feel like if you would have read like the Dreamwave reboot or even the IDW reboot stuff, like they took chances, and in the early days they paid off. Like they really did it completely different, where, you know, all the Decepticons, you know, they won the war, and then it was like the All Hail Megatron series storyline, and there was other like Autobots behind the scenes that like got captured, and then even in like the Dreamwave stuff where it was more of like they landed on the humans had them, and they had took control of them. Like they didn't land in like the Ark. They took control, and they were able to have them for a certain amount of time. But obviously Megatron was way too powerful, and he was doing his own thing in his own mind. So I don't know, it's just too much rinse and repeat for me. But again, it's still early. But I do like that there was a lot of action for it. So, you know, it's something different. I just feel like the people that are going crazy, like buying like the 1 in 100, spending over $100 and like these crazy variants, like go out and buy a Transformers 1. Like that's the real investment.
Yeah, no, for sure. In that, I liked it because it was just a little off, but so similar. So it's like the nostalgia is there, but it's like a different path. So,
Yeah. All right, so that's our current reads this week. Let's kind of move into another topic before we get into the state of comics for the evening, since we don't have any articles and we got a ton of people. Let's talk Ahsoka. So Ahsoka season. Oh boy, I don't even know where to start. I don't know where to go.
How about a synopsis from Newbie, real quick? I'm like,
yes, Newbie. What was the Ahsoka series about? Before we get
you know, it was a little crazy because, you know, to me it seemed like, you know, she was after that gray ball, and you know, that led her to Thrawn, and I just think that's going to be, you know, where we go. Yeah. So
where do you think the ball will show up next?
Ooh, I don't know, but basically what it was like Rebels season 5, right? Like that's where we kind of pick it up. So
insightful.
I kind of liked the character development between Sabine and Ahsoka as well, just simply because, you know, they always butted heads, and she tried to make her apprentice. But you know, now
how many times did like previously were they like together?
Yeah.
Come on, man, you know. So yeah. It was good. It was good.
We do know. You're right.
Yeah. So.
It's the most absurd. This dude was like, when we started everyone needs to know when we logged on, this guy was like listening to a review of Ahsoka so that he could talk about it in the background. He logs in and it's like, oh, in this episode of Ahsoka. Blah, 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 blah.
Listen, in my defense, Justin had said, hey, listen, if you didn't watch it, just you just sit there. And I gave
you we talked about this in like July. I said, listen, if you start Rebels now, you will easily be ready for Ahsoka. All you had to do was watch like 2 episodes a day, and you would have gotten it, or at least start in like season 2 where like Ahsoka shows up.
But now I get to watch it with like no spoilers. Well, technically,
log off.
But yeah, no kidding. But yeah, I'll get to it, man. I've watched like 6 movies already off your checklist, so we're getting there. Okay. Justin likes to always
hold on. What's this checklist? This movie.
So I had asked Justin
1 through 6 of Star Wars.
No, I had asked Justin a while ago, what's the order? Like, give me the order so I can watch it. And then when I went out to go visit Greg actually in Edmonton, you know, I was just like, all right, you know, I'd watch some of them. And Greg, you can back me up here. I watched like 3 or 4 movies.
I don't know what you're talking about.
What was your favorite episode?
Oh, come on, man. Don't do this.
It's an honest question. My favorite episode, I Return of the Jedi, but I fully acknowledge that Empire's the best.
Okay.
Yeah, you're probably not going to like my answer then.
Phantom Menace.
Yeah,
He's a
that's
big
where I
Jar
was.
Jar
That's
fan.
yeah, that's probably where I was going to go. Phantom Menace, just because. Yeah, but I've only seen like
the only
4.
one I've watched.
Yeah,
I started with episode 1 and I couldn't get past the Trade Federation.
He's like, I couldn't figure out the politics and how bartering works.
To be honest, I tried to make my nephew watch it. Like I was like, let's start with episode 1, and then I was like halfway through, I was like, I bet this is boring as shit, dude. Like this price sucks, man. He wasn't very interested.
but I will watch all of them. I promise. I'll watch all of them.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate your support of the Comic-Con podcast review of Ahsoka. So let's move on to Greg. Greg, did you get a chance to watch the series or no?
I just haven't watched the finale, so I've watched everything else. Okay, so I did watch Rebels. I skipped through some of Clone Wars, but I've seen most of Clone Wars. But you need that information going into the show to really appreciate it. I've been watching it with my girlfriend, and she has a lot of questions, and if I wasn't there to watch it with her, I feel there's a lot missing out, and she feels like she's missing out on a lot of information, a lot of the backstory that's kind of necessary. I've enjoyed it so far. I think people are more fanboying over a lot of the characters that are showing up. Like, I think Andor was better, in my opinion, but I haven't watched the finale yet. I'm also a big fan of Mando season 1 and 2. It just feels like the old Star Wars, and I feel there's a different vibe between almost the expanded universe that's now becoming mainstream and the classics. And I'm more of a classics kind of guy.
Okay.
I think that's pretty fair.
Yeah. No, I like that. I like that from someone who's not a crazy diehard like myself, who's engulfed in it all around him. Recording studio. Mr. ComicDunes, thoughts?
Same. I didn't see the finale, but
Dude, why do we have these guys?
Yeah,
well,
great
you know
show,
what it
guys.
is. Hold on.
You guys are really bringing a lot to the table here.
Well, I led with I'm opening up a comic shop. I also have 2 kids who consume most of the time, but I've read all the spoilers and all that fun stuff. So my question is, and this is the real thing. I mean, spoiler alert. Sorry, guys. Where is Balin going? Right? He finds these statues, the 3 spirits, and then what? This guy passed away. So what's the next step? Right? You're the Star Wars guy, so I want you to break that down for me, right? And then the whole Anakin Force Ghost. So I'm sorry for spoilers, but I want to ask you guys that because, like, I saw it, but like, what that was his arc can't be wrapped up, right? He's already been dead for a while. He's kind of got peace and resolution with his apprentice, right? Like, she seems to be in a better place. Are we going to see him again? You know, where are we going from this?
Yeah. So it's before I really get into my review. So you
That's
see
right,
when
you asked me a review. I'm more curious because you're the guy.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And, I'm just going to kind of try to answer your question. And may not even be the correct answer, but I just feel like this is part of the answer. So at the end of the show, you see Balin on the statue of Mortis. You see the father from, if you watch Clone Wars and also if you watch Rebels, you see him literally standing on the father who was the balance of the Force. And you see the son who was the dark side, and you see him, and on the light side where the daughter would be, there's no head. So she's not even there. So in my mind, the way I look at it is that Ahsoka is the light side, because she's always Morai, who's the little
Owl.
a little owl looking thing, is always with her. So she has that embodiment of the light side of the Force. I think, and it's very tough if you obviously you haven't seen it, but at the end when he's he's standing out on the statue and he's looking into the distance, and there's like this pillar, there's like a beam you could kind of see off in the distance. And I think like where he goes is he wants something different. He's looking for something more. And I think that was his initial goal. Like he's not really trying to get, he wants to, get away from, war. He wants to stop repeating it. So I feel like his next journey is where he's at. Like he he needs to be where he needs to be, basically, on that planet.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know, and I could be wrong, I could be right. You know,
Yeah.
that's just kind of my interpretation because there's so many, you know, now I'll kind of get into also my review. There's so many parallels in this show, right? You know, there's so much that's been said by some characters that, you know, flashbacks to old movies, to the cartoons, to all the animated stuff. And that's what's so great. Like, you know, like Greg said, like you need to have seen a decent amount, a good amount of the Clone Wars stuff and the Rebel stuff to really appreciate things that happen throughout this series. And that's one thing that if you don't know, you know, you wouldn't get, you know, like, you know, little things like, I mean, you know, when you first meet Huang, like, who the hell is he? Like, if you didn't watch Clone Wars for 2 episodes, you wouldn't know who this droid was. And then obviously everything that happens on Lothal, like, you wouldn't understand that. You wouldn't understand anything of like Sabine and Ezra's relationship. Like, why is he so quirky? And I feel like he's the way he is. He's like an older version of himself. And I love that about him. Uh, I think all the characters throughout the entire series, they did a great job. You know, Zach knew that I was on suicide watch every episode because if it was going to be bad, I don't know what was going to happen. But I love the show. You know, it ended last night, and and after that, I ended up jumping on with Jeff to play some Fortnite. And I feel like I'm going to throw up.
Yeah,
And
that's how do you feel? How do you
Yeah.
feel? What are your thoughts? And that's he just kept repeating that. Like that's
And-
so weird. Yeah.
And I just had that feeling like I didn't know where to go. I didn't know what to do. And it's like an uneasy feeling. Like you know, Ahsoka says, you know, she says to Sabine, you know, Ezra is where he needs to be. And you get that, you know, like Thrawn's we knew this. Like we knew Thrawn was going to get out wherever he was. Like Thrawn's going to be the villain in Filoni's movie. That's where they're going to go before they get close enough to the point with like Rey and Kylo and everything like that. I really think they'll figure out a way to do like a Luke Skywalker versus Thrawn. You know, you have Ezra who has like his surrogate mother in Hera, like meeting her, and it's just, and then even like where, you know, Thrawn even says at the end of his, you know, the last thing that he says to Ahsoka is like, "Oh, I knew who your master was," and as you know, I don't know the exact verbiage or quote is like, "I knew how he was and how violent he was," so he's leaving her there in a way of saying like, "You're going to get stuck here because I don't know like the type of person that you're going to become." And it's kind of true. Like if she's like left on that planet, like she can't come after him as hard and as fast as like Anakin would, right? And the same thing kind of goes for Sabine. Like Sabine's in a place where, you know, she's finally understanding and accepting of the whole Jedi thing. And I think like the idea of her becoming a Jedi, I understood. I felt like after I watched it, I understood why like Ahsoka kind of stopped training her, because if you think about it, it's also said in that episode where she thinks that Sabine would have I felt like Sabine probably would have went to the dark side because of the fact that she kind of started training right before the purge of Mandalore, and that's something that we learn in like in the whole Mandalorian series and Book of Boba Fett. So it's different because she could have went to the dark side. Like she's training for the wrong reasons. She's not training for the right reasons. The only thing I would say for me, as far as why I don't like the series, is I just don't like the idea that she ended up having like force powers at the end. But we all know, like through Lucas, for people that really know the Star Wars stuff, is everybody has the force within them. It resides in all things. You know what Yoda says in Empire. So everybody does have it. It's just at what level do you possess it? I like the new verbiage that they've kind of created. The whole Boken Jedi, like Cal Kestis is someone that's a Boken Jedi. Obviously, even Luke is someone because he's been trained. It's anybody who's been trained after Order 66. The coolest thing, and Zach and I have never talked about this, but Ahsoka's got like Cal Kestis powers, right? She has the Force echoes. When the first time when, you know, and Newbie said it, the Gray Ball, when she gets the ball after episode 5, she senses the residuals from, you know, the map. And that's something that Cal Kestis does, is he sees echoes of the Force that reside in. And I think that was always so cool that, you know, Zach, we've never really talked about that episode and how it is. But yeah, overall, I absolutely love the series. So I can't wait. Hopefully a season 2 comes out. They haven't really said anything, obviously, with the writer's strike. I'm sure they're not going to announce it for a while, if anything. So That's my review. Zach?
Yeah, I mean, overall, I liked it. I'm with Greg. Being a person who's also watched the Clone Wars and Rebels, of course, I like it more than a person who hasn't. And I do, looking back, it was a little, I know he's got to say this, and I'm not like disparaging Filoni here, but it was a little disingenuous to say like, hey, you don't have to watch Rebels to understand this show. That's not entirely true. These characters just show up and there they are. And so if you don't really know who they are, you're not really getting much from it. It's not like Mando, all new characters, kind of that situation. I think with I'm with Jeff too. The Balin Skull stuff, it's sad because obviously, Ray Stevenson's passing and there's more to that story. Justin and I talked a lot offline, and that was kind of always where my feeling for the character was his whole mission was not what his mission was. Basically saying like he was just doing all this shit because he knew he needed to get to this place. He didn't give two shits really about Ahsoka or Ezra or anyone. It's just, hey, what gets me to this planet? And how do I get to the beginning of it all? And that's kind of what he talks about. So, the Mortis stuff I think was a really cool, obviously like a shout out Easter egg too, that, they're obviously going to build on as well, kind of showing that, hey, like this place Peridia is maybe like the home of obviously like the Dathomirian. And then somehow, so then there's always mysteries like, okay, well, did the Dathomir start in Peridia? Did it start in the main universe and then get to Peridia and they got stuck there, blah, 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 all that. That's very cool. It's a very, like, we'll see where that goes. I think obviously it's inevitable that they're going to have to probably recast Balin, which is unfortunate, but it seems like his story has more to go. So let's hope they do that.
I saw somebody do a cool little like transition of the guy who played
Lee Schreiber.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you see
I saw that too. Now that'd be pretty cool. I mean, if obviously it's like, hey, let's cast this guy, and no one asks him if he's free or anything. Like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll just do it. But no, I liked it. There's definitely a lot of Easter eggs, man. I mean, obviously, like Justin said, stuff that you don't know, like the Talzin sword. Obviously, it's like a huge one. Like for the fans, you're like, oh shit, okay, fanboy time right here. That's cool. There's shout outs to Fallen. I loved because I'm, Justin and I are both big Fallen Order and Cal Kestis fans. There's so many like Fallen Order, like when what's her name? Morgan Elsbeth is like raising the dead bodies. Like that's like right out of Fallen Order, right? I mean, like you're fighting those guys in Fallen Order. And then there's tons of Zepho shout outs as well throughout the show. So there are little things that enhance, of course, but you don't need to know. Overall, I thought it was really good. I don't think standalone it's as strong as, for sure, like Greg said, Andor, or even season 2, maybe of Mando, maybe even season 1. I don't think standalone it's as good as these other shows, but as like a whole, as like you're a Star Wars fan, it's knocked right out the park. I mean, the castings for the characters, the depictions of the characters, live action are just awesome. Thrawn's great. You want to see more. You want to know more. And we'll just see where it goes, whether, like Justin said, it's Ahsoka season 2, or does it go straight into the Filoni Avengers movie of like Mando, Boba, Ahsoka, and all them. But it was good. I will say, here's my gripe. I thought so, and Justin and I have talked about this, and I think we might have talked about this on the on the podcast as well. Like the themes of like the Ronin, and she's kind of a Ronin, and Thrawn even calls her a Ronin in this last episode as well. So her fighting style is kind of Ronin, and that was cool. But man, I did not think the fights with like when all three of them had their sabers, when Sabine and Ezra and her, they were not smooth, and I didn't think they were choreographed well. I thought they could have done better. I didn't really like the group fights, which is a bummer because you're like, hell yeah, 3 lightsabers. This is awesome. This is like Clone Wars shit right here. You haven't seen 3 Jedi together fighting since like episode 2 and 1 and 3, right? So, but I didn't think they were choreographed well. I hope they work on that a little bit. It was lacking, in my opinion, on the lightsaber battles. It was a little weak.
I agree with you 100% on that. I mentioned that to my girlfriend too. It almost felt like they did the best with what they had, as opposed to having the best. Like I feel like they really pulled back on that choreography because they didn't think it would be believable.
Yeah, and that's a bummer because I mean, I get Sabine's going to be sloppy, right? She's kind of newer, whatever. And but like Ezra was decent training, and Ahsoka, of course, had great training. So yeah, I don't know. And Craig, you said you hadn't watched the last episode yet, right?
No, I was more talking about the battles at the beginning, with some of the lightsabers. I just felt Ahsoka all the way through. It was smooth, but it wasn't difficult like you would expect from a Jedi. Like it didn't hold up to the Darth Maul fight with two Jedis and stuff like that, you know?
Yeah, well, that's a tough one too. But.
Yeah, well, I think it's because it's also obviously you're trying to do 8 episodes, so like I feel like the battles between Anakin and her are done well. I think obviously the Baylan and her are done well. But yeah, the other ones are not because it's not, again, like it's sloppy. Like the Shin and Sabine is like a sloppy fight. I think even just the quick battle between Ahsoka and Marek and like in the on that quick planet, like when she's fighting the HK droid, and then when she's fighting the HK droids in like the first episode, it was like cool. It's a little different, you know. And a lot of people complain that she's not as fast as like a guy, and I get that, but like I still think it's done in such a choreography way. And I said this on the mid season, is that it's very samurai. It's very coordinated. Every move it's a lot different than what when you're used to for I mean everybody always talks about like the Anakin Obi-Wan fight and Revenge of the Sith. Like yes, that's hands down the best live action.
Right. That's the fight. Yeah.
That is hands down the best one.
Yeah.
But then past that, like in all reality, Ahsoka and Darth Maul fight is also a choreography. You know, the way they did that was also motion capture, and that's like an amazing fight, right? Yeah. So yeah, there's so much, but I get it. We all have our gripes.
It's just that group fight. The group fight on the stairs. That's
they're
the
fighting
one that bugs me.
freaking stormtroopers. What do you want them to do? Like
I don't know, be more cool. I don't know. It was kind of weak. Like it just was kind of weak, and I don't know. I wasn't impressed. I was like, dude, I could take you 3 Jedi.
Well, you had Space Jesus. Like
I'm Space Jesus.
Oh, no, you had Ezra's Space Jesus.
Well, he even wasn't that great either. I mean, look,
because he's been out of the fight for so long. Like, let's be real.
He could have put the lightsaber down and just started force pushing everybody.
Been hanging out with them snails too long.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my god,
snail
exactly.
People.
He's probably that friend who moved away for 6 months and comes back wearing puka shell necklaces and has their frosted tips, right?
You could smell him too.
Oh my god,
you could smell
like
Ezra.
intergalactic patchouli oil.
Yeah, dude.
He went from like the East Coast to the West Coast, California, and now he's living in like the ocean in like Orange County.
What are those rugs that like they're the rug jackets that are so popular?
God.
Is there a name for them? What are they fucking? Huh?
They're like little, like they're not like they like the
ponchos.
Yeah,
like a ponchos.
The poncho rug
Ezra's
jackets.
big at Bonnaroo.
Yeah.
That's like Ezra's style now.
All right, so again, that was our review of Ahsoka from 2 and 3.5 of the people that are on this panel tonight. You know, we really appreciate Newbie for watching the series, giving us his review. Let's kind of get into something different. This is something out of the ordinary for us because again, normally we're talking articles, but I feel like this is the perfect time with New York Comic Con right around the corner. So we're gonna kind of do the state of comics. We got oh no, we already got an oh no in the back. So we're gonna kind of just pick apart different things, and we'll kind of go from there. So let's talk variants. Let's get it. Obviously New York Comic Con is next week. We have someone who's gonna be set up at New York Comic Con. I know he's selling a ton of variants himself.
That's all we got at the booth. There's nothing but variants.
Nothing but variants.
I'm gonna have a half-naked girl. She's gonna be wrapped in foil.
Oh.
And we're going to be printing our acetates live at the booth. Real time. And
that's marketing.
Limit them to as many as the number you desire. If you come to the booth, Newbie, and you were like, I want this to be limited to 3,000. We're like, you know what? Fuck it, John. Print 3,000 on this copy. And just for you, it'll be limited to 3,000. Really exclusive stuff.
So you're telling me do you have your own like Tales of Suspense 39? You're just going to like put some foil on it and be like one of one?
Yeah, whatever you want. I can do it. I can foil whatever you want right now.
Nice. So, all right. So let's get into it. So New York Comic Con, there, obviously if you guys watch Brian McClay, and then they talked about it over the weekend, and I posted it earlier this week on my Instagram saying there's nothing but foils. And it's true. If you go on New York Comic Con's website, you go under exclusives, everybody under the sun is doing their own foil exclusive. Variants are they're no skin in the vein. We've seen them, right? Like every convention, there's tons of variants, right? That's nothing new. But I feel like New York Comic Con this year, it is foil madness. I'm literally going to try to buy some foils and stand inside the Javits Center in the big atrium where it's nothing but glass and see if I can blind some people with my variants. So, let's kind of go around the horn. Obviously, we got some people that are, in the space. They like variants. They hate variants. Jeff, your setup. You talked about it. What do you think this madness is of the foils?
I don't know. I don't. This is my first time being set up as my own company again for the first time in like 6-7 years, right? Because I had the time working for like Metropolis and other people and then Goldens. And to be on the high end side and not really see what's transpiring on like the community level almost from when we set up, I don't know if it's like it's partially just disgusting. And I'm just confused, right? Because 10 years ago, you go to a convention and a New York Comic Con would maybe have like 5-10 exclusives, like across the whole board, and then they would be sought after. Some of them would retain value. And now we're going to the point, it's like every person who wants to be in the space, and God bless you, sell a book, is printing a foil. And I look at the booths, and there's people that are like credible in the space that I have their numbers in my phone. We're really good friends. And if I'm going to roast somebody, fuck it. Like my boy Captured, like I love him. I love the family. I talk to him all the time, but what are you doing? Everything is foil. Like everybody is better than this. Everybody's better than this. We're in a space right now where the marketplace is reliving the 90s, and it's extremely fragile. Yeah. And the foils aren't going to help. And I think this is going to be the pinnacle of what I hope could be foils, because it's the second biggest convention, right? Like Namesake, San Diego, New York. And like, it's like a fever, right? It's got to get worse before it gets better. And I hope this is the fever and we all come to our senses, because what these guys were doing way before this, people like my boy Murphy with Spectral, like his books are fire. If he puts a foil out, that's okay. One foil out of everything. I don't shoot him in the foot, but everything they do is original, and they're be original, I don't know. I just see too much trash. I went through
something different. I hear you.
Real quick, guys, and I'm sorry, but you've hit a nerve that just triggers me. It makes my eyes twitch. Like you said, you were like, oh, why are you spending all this money on a one and whatever, Transformers, when you can just go buy the Transformers one? Well, it's because, I don't want to say anybody's name and you get a hot take, but your influencers are only pushing what they want to push, right? If your name's on the back of the
what?
Book, it sells more, right? You can reprint a Transformers run, just throw a fucking foil on it and put your stupid logo with your flipped over hair and your horns. We don't need that shit, okay, guys? Like sell real books, talk about real shit. Let's not just acetate and wrap everything in foil, because you're scamming your clientele, your customer base. You're alienating everyone who's buying the book. And when they try to resell this shit in 5-10 years, they're going to have no monetary value. And Epic's going to be laughing all the way to the bank.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, let's real quick. Let's talk to the biggest influencer on the panel, Newbie. What are your thoughts? You're Canadian, you're an influencer. You don't have your own variant yet. You're not doing anything foil, but you're not coming into New York. Where do you see all this? Like, what's your thoughts on seeing all these variants come out, especially just for New York Comic Con and especially being foils?
I get it. Like kind of how Jeff, kind of touched on it. A few years ago, it was like, I got it. Now it's like everybody's just doing it. We kind of had something at Toronto Comic Con like 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half ago. I think Greg was there with me, but the Batman, the Todd McFarlane Batman one that they did, I mean, it was reaching like $80 raw. Then it was like $250 graded, $300 again Canadian, and then all of a sudden, excuse me, like 2 months later, it's like worthless. Like I know guys that can't sell it. I don't know. I think it's just a vicious cycle, anytime. And Justin, we've talked about it, with, exclusives, like even at Terrificon, not just, solely on New York, but like, I just think people try to get you, to Jeff's point, you get those influencers, paint your nails and, go get him, they just try to do that because it's more money in their pocket. They're not really doing it. I think the biggest question that we need to ask ourselves lately is, when we talk about comic community, what are we actually talking about? Because I think there's a lot of fake people saying like, no, guys, it's comic community, but it's just sheep. It's just a wolf talking to sheep. And I think that's the biggest problem right now with comics. You don't have real, you don't have originality, you don't have true. It's all business right now. And I personally think it's all going to come crashing down like the 90s. I think too much of anything. I've talked about this many times, especially with COVID. Too much of something is never good for anything. Fashion, food, cars, whatever it is. It all comes down. What goes up must come down. And that's just kind of where I see it.
But it's not, and I want to jump back in on this, but it's not just on the variant end, though, right? There's like influencers talking about high-end books that have mostly no idea what they're talking about because they only started covering prices at COVID. And they're covering prices where like people that had just money bought in at stupid prices without any research, which is part of like that COVID boom. So it's like,
oh yeah, we're gonna get. Don't worry, we're gonna get to pricing. Okay, we're gonna get to pricing
because it's wild. You can catch me on the Newbie verse next week where we go this. Boom, right after Comic-Con. I'm sure after these shots fired, we might.
Damn, let's do it. Let's do it.
All right, so let's change it up. Let's talk about the writing in comics. This was something. Oh no, because we can't have everybody have a say unless you really want one. But you can.
Yeah, no, that's a hot topic.
I want to chime in on this one because
all right, go ahead.
I think there's a few things that happened. I
didn't know you were still here, Greg, because you weren't on camera.
Such a jerk. So I think there's a few things that have happened. I think history is repeating itself. I think we all should have seen this coming. This happened in the 90s. This is a last-ditch effort. This is a lazy effort to try to get a lot of excitement going on. I also think that the rise of the store exclusive is really hurting the Comic-Con exclusive because everybody's saving the best ideas for themselves and releasing it whenever. With that being said, even the exclusives don't feel exclusive because you can hop online and grab most of them. You can go anywhere. And I think it's taken away how special these exclusives are and the real passion behind them. It just become FOMO because people are watching on Whatnot or on YouTube or whatever what's going on, and they wish they were there, and they buy it, and they say it's limited to 1,000, when there's not even 1,000 people out there who want the damn comic, and it's very artificial. So I stay away from all those so-called exclusives. To be honest with you.
Yeah, it's already like some people they do a lot of these retailers are already doing pre-sales via their website, or they're throwing out a very few on like Whatnot, and then the rest will be at the show. And that's not really a New York Comic Con exclusive if you're already pre-selling it or making it available to people that aren't making it to the show. Yeah, like you said, I went to New York Comic Con, and when a variant came out, that was the only spot you were getting it. You weren't finding it anywhere else but New York Comic Con.
And at one retailer, right? It'd be like, okay, it's coming out at so and so's booth, and they're giving X amount each day.
Yep.
And that was it.
Yeah. All right, switching it up. Let's talk about some writing in comics. And this is kind of an interesting topic because I watched Brian McClay's show on Saturday night, and I love Brian, and Brian's a great guy in the community, and James from Hive was on there, and he was talking about how a lot of people out there are just buying comics, whether it's investments or they're just buying these variants. And he was saying, and I don't have the exact quote that he said, but he was saying that the writing today is not as good as it once was. And I don't know, like he was saying it because other than like Tynan, James like doing Something Is Killing the Children and all these other books that he's talking about. But in reality, man, let's talk about some hot writers that are people that are underrated, or they're up and coming, or they just put out good stuff and people are just not looking at them. I mean, you have someone like Chip Zdarsky, right? You have Charles Soule, Kevin Scott, Trish Foster. You have all these people that have done great books. These are anything that they've put out has been great, right? Zach and I talk about different comics every week, and I think it's not just the books that are coming out every week from a standpoint of, you're buying it. Are you buying it to read it? Because I'm buying it to read it. Like, I'm looking for a good storyline. I'm not looking just to buy it and hopefully it'll be an investment. Like, I'm buying into a series. I'm buying into a mini series. Kieran Gillen puts out something great. Obviously Daniel Warren, who's doing the Transformers, like he did, do a power bomb, and all these guys have been coming out with good things. Let's go back like 20, 30 years. In the 90s, like there was nothing good. It was art. It was art over story. So, Zach, let's go right to you. I want to go right to you on this topic.
Yeah, I disagree with that as well. And I believe I say this because you told me about the show. I didn't watch the show, so if I'm completely wrong here on what was said, I apologize. But that one of the comments was also like the Big Two doesn't have any good writers, and I don't think that's true at all. And you and I talked about this. I think the Big Two it's tricky. I mean, you obviously have these characters that are been around for a long time, and you got to come in and you got to stake your claim on that character, and it can be tough. And it is tough, and you can't really change the status quo of any character in the Big Two for the most part. I mean, let's be honest. But there are writers out there that are doing that. I mean, Benjamin Percy right now with like the X-Men stuff, the X-Force, the Wolverine, his Wolverine versus Predator, his Ghost Rider stuff. I mean, those are all, he is writing the shit out of those books. And, that's not just because I'm a fan of those characters. That's good writing, because there is some garbage X-Men writing going on as well. But the Big Two, like Justin said, Charles Soule in Star Wars. And then, he's also in, doing Hell to Pay and Undiscovered Country. You got Snyder doing Noctera and all that. And then, like, to even kind of claim, so don't get me wrong. I want people to hear me first when I say this. Like, I'm not talking shit on Tynan at all, but there's a fad as well that like he can write anything and it's great. And that's not totally true. Okay. Like, he is one of the best writers right now. Okay. But I do think there is a bit of a fad around Tynan that whatever he puts out is gold, and that's not 100%. So yes, right now he is very hot, and I'm a big fan of all of his writing as well, but it just comes and it goes, man. There is great writing out there in the Big Two and the independent titles, and the Kickstarters as well. I mean, like we said, our buddy Scott, I'm loving the stuff at the Rippaverse. I think that's great writing as well. Swaggle House put out a great comic, which was great writing. There is a lot of good writing out there. And I think that if you don't think so, you need to explore some other stuff. I think you probably just pigeonholed yourself and like, oh, I'm just going to pick up Tynan from Boom Studios or Something is Killing the Children, which has been kind of crappy. Let's be honest. The main title, Something is Killing the Children, is not very strong right now. And if you say otherwise, you're probably being a fanboy. It's not that good. It's not bad. It's not that strong. So
not what it once was. Like
not what it once was. They haven't moved the needle on that title for a while now. Mm-hmm. So, I totally disagree on that. And shit, man, I feel like you said, Justin, the 90s. I mean, I don't necessarily agree that the writing wasn't good. Looking back, obviously, it's not great, but at the time it was good. But just now, man, the writers now, shit, it's wild how many good writers there are.
Greg, thoughts on the writing? You're kind of all over the place as far as, what you're reading, but, where do you see, the writing as far as, where it is now to where it's come from?
So I think there are great writers out there. There's probably some of the best writers we've ever had are going right now. So I will say that, but I'll say the market is very diluted. So the chances of you picking up a random book because you like the idea of it, there's a 50-50 chance it could be crappy or not, because I just think there's so much out there. So I don't want to say it's scary but it's difficult to hop on to a new run at $9.99 or whatever some of these places. So I just end up sticking to the artists I like, and I stay close to home. Like Jeff Lemire, anything that comes out from that direction I'll grab, and then I stick to my titles, but even I'm losing hope with a lot of those because the writing has left. So I think there's just too many titles and there's not enough writers to fill it right now. But with that being said, I think it's also changed and I've changed as well, where art is almost more important to me than the writing. And that's where I think a lot of the cover plays come in, and that's why I do feel the cover artists are getting more love than any of the writers right now. And the writers are just getting dumped on whenever people have the opportunity to. So I think it's almost, I do think it's the best writing that there's ever been, but I think it's also the worst writing there's almost ever been out there too.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, no, definitely. I like that opinion. Anybody else want to jump on this topic real quick? If not, we're going to move to our next topic in the state of comics.
You can move on. Yeah.
Cool. So last but not least, we're going to talk about like the buying and selling and the pricing of books nowadays. So you all know him, Swaggle House. You know, he's been on the podcast here. Zach just talked about how he got his own book. He's been on Newbie's channel. You know, he was out here for Terrificon. You know, he puts out weekly videos. Well, I should say daily, every other day, videos. And he's always talking about, the comic book market, looking at, the top 100 books, kind of how where books were, pre-COVID during like the early Marvel phases. And then, there's the COVID prices, and then now where we're at. Right. And I just feel like we're all sellers here. We all sell on different platforms. We all have our own shop now. We, Rocksteady has his thing where, he sells, we have eBay, we have whatnot, whatever it is. And I just feel like sometimes when Mickey puts out these videos, there's always the same thing as like, well, it's not the COVID prices anymore, and people aren't buying comics. And is it the economy, or is it because there's no thrill anymore? There's no spec. And I think for me, I think the reason why prices are going down, obviously, one, there's obviously the COVID thing. Two, there's where we are in the economy, like interest rates are through the roof, so people don't have that extra funded, income. But I also think it's when prices started going through the roof, I think there's new collectors. And I don't mean new collectors as in someone who never did comics before and never collected anything before. I think it was people were in other markets and then decided to jump into the comics because they saw the idea that they could make money. And now the reason why comics are kind of going back down is because those people that were in comics are now diversifying their portfolio and
Moving
looking
on
at
to
other
the next
things.
thing. Yeah,
exactly. Like whether it's video games or cards or action figures. Newbie. You were Newbie Comics for the longest time. Now you've changed your name to Newbie Cards.
And collectibles. Yeah, he's not even Newbie Comics anymore, from what I'm understanding.
As a person that goes out and hunts and, was all about, buying and flipping and, speculating, where do you see and why do you see the prices they are? What's your thoughts on that?
It's crazy because like even books that I purchased at Terrificon, which wasn't that long ago, now even are, like ridiculously priced low. I agree with the comment that you made about like other people coming in. I think, obviously COVID did that to cards, to this. There was a few markets that kind of just, went crazy, but it just goes back to my, my original comment, like too much of something. And we see it with shows, right? Like I always talk about how before COVID, like, and this is how you can get like somebody fake, right? It's like before COVID, it was like 2 movies a year, maybe 3, right? If I wanted to see what happened next to Iron Man, it didn't happen a year later. Like Iron Man 1 released in 2007, the Iron Man 2, I think, released a few years later. Iron Man 3 released in 2013. Like it took a while. Now we're getting like a show, what seemed last year every like 4 or 5 weeks, or every 4 or 5 months. You had Star Wars in there, you had a movie, like just too much of too much is sometimes bad, right? Like in anything.
Yeah, the oversaturation of it.
It doesn't let it breathe. It doesn't let each show breathe on its
exactly,
own.
Right. And like I have it, perfect example. My wife, she wants to, know a bit more, similar to Greg, like, his girlfriend will watch, and like my wife will watch and go to movies with me. And sometimes, but like, even she said, like, a movie comes out and I'll be like, oh, I really want to go see that. And her first thing is it like a comic book thing? Cause that's too much. Right. But that's the truth, right? Like everything that comes out now, it's like, now I tell her like, oh, Loki's coming and like Aquaman and the Marvels. And she's like, oh, really? Like, why? But it is what it is. I also think that people, people aren't spending as crazy as it is. And there's also, me personally, I think there's a lot of influencers and a lot of wolf out there that just tell people what to buy. So, when you're moving people a certain direction, other books are just not having that price, right? So
I need one of those.
So this is the second time you've said the word wolves in these people, and I have to jump in. I didn't jump in the first time, but you're giving these people too much credit. These are sheeps in wolves' clothing. Like these are not wolves. These are not even betas. These are omegas.
No, 100%. Yeah, 100%. But like
clowns out here.
Yeah, exactly. But
they're bringing they have the sheep that are listening to the words they say.
Exactly. And that's what I mean with when I say
Snake
wolves,
oil
right?
salesman.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. That's even a better way to put it. Right. Yeah.
Mm.
You know, most of these people, like, let's be honest, you could pull up on them and be like, hey, what are you reading, or this, and what character? And you could like totally realize that they are not readers. They don't know a story. They don't know writers. Like, I could throw out like 5-6, you know, influencers right now that don't read comics. And that's why they're teamed up with other people who maybe own shops or get books early, and they feed them that. So, like,
but
you know,
they don't even have to say anything. Is when you ask them the question and you just see like the eyes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You get a deer in the headlights look, and it's like, oh, all right, let's keep this moving.
Yeah.
Mm.
So
Um,
never meet your heroes. Never meet your heroes. Right.
The price thing, you know, for me, I don't know. I guess I don't know. I'm a little different because the price thing's never been a thing for me. Like I dabbled a little bit where I was trying to like, let me get this book, gets hot, let's flip it or whatever. And I honestly didn't like it. I felt like it really sucked the life out of the hobby for me for a really long time. And, you know, when I was flipping books, it was really with goals in mind. Like, I'm going to flip this book because I'm working towards this book.
Yeah.
But like chasing the exclusives, chasing the spec, like, I disagree with Swaggle in terms of that. Like, hey, the comics aren't selling the same way they were. Good. Honestly, awesome. Because I'd like to see those people in the hobby. And I'm not trying to be an asshole. I'd like to see those people kind of leave the hobby because I don't find them to be genuine members of the hobby.
Mm-hmm.
Like Justin said, I buy books because I'm following a title, a story, a writer, and because I genuinely like the story. And then I sell the book because I just need to get the hell out of my house. And I try to recoup something so I can buy more shit. But like, I don't know, like the COVID stuff, that it was almost like people got out of control. Like that was like being spoiled, right? And it just was weird. And that's a blip, bro. That's the blip. It's the MCU blip. Like that shit didn't happen. Get out of your head. You know, like that's not real shit.
People are still asking for COVID prices though. I go to shows now when they opened up in 2020, and it's like they still have the same books and they're still asking for the same price. And I'm like, you're out of your mind.
Right.
Yeah. Greg, you know, you're probably, I would say, the most diversified person on this panel that collects a little bit of everything. You know, do you think that's true? Kind of what I said earlier is that like people got into the hobby that were different and now they've kind of run their course, or let's just say they're kind of tired of it and they're like, oh, I want to try getting into something different. So whether it's like I'll collect figures or, you know, more rare stuff. Cause you were looking for stuff at Terrificon that is like, you know, one of one type of things. And, you know, you post on your Instagram that there's stuff like that. You know, do you see that? That's kind of the reason why, you know, comics are falling as far as pricing and maybe something else is on the rise?
So I actually kind of look at this from a different angle, where a lot of flippers entered the game during that COVID period or whatever. And in full transparency, I'm a flipper if I can flip, but I'm also a collector. And I think the majority of books and collectibles as a whole, like action figures, video games, you name it, the majority of them were in flippers' hands for a period of time there.
Yeah.
So the same book would move 5 or 6 times within a year just because that was where we were at. And I think now the majority of books are moving back into collectors' hands from the flippers. And I think the tides have turned where these flippers are understanding it's not as lucrative or it isn't worth their time, and they're unloading. And now is when collectors are like, I always said I would buy this book if it hit this price point. And then they're going away for 4 or 5 years, this book now. So I think the liquidation is happening from the flippers to the collectors, but I think we're going to see that dry up at some point. And when the books all end up in the collectors' hands at the prices they want, we're going to have our new market value, and things are going to kind of start to go up again because these books aren't going to be available anymore, or collectibles as a whole. The only reason I've been buying more toys and video games and stuff like that is because of that, because they're coming available, because they're at a reasonable price again. Stuff I said I always wanted to have, but they weren't needs. That's where I'm stepping in and grabbing it. And a flipper is going to flip, right? Like, you just have to look at market value, and flipping is buying it under market value and selling it for market value. And you can still do that no matter where the prices are at if you find the right deal out there. And for me, it's always been a little bit about the hunt, and my hunt has changed a little bit, but I still get joy out of that.
I think the spec market too is changed or going to change. I think you're going to see a different, like we always, like the old circle was, hey, a trailer or a movie comes out, and then boom, right?
Yeah.
I think that's kind of changed now because like you look at the Marvels, right? And I know maybe bad example, but like you look at that, you look at the new Aquaman, like a lot of these books aren't necessarily moving or popping as like say, pre-COVID or even during that COVID little peak, right? So I think that we're going to get into this new market, new selling, new flipping. Spec has just changed in completely. So
people are getting burned on the spec, and they're kind of like, yeah. So now you're gun shy to play the spec game, yeah.
Exactly.
So I'm glad like everyone's kind of had their opinion on this one, and Rocksteady, you said it great as far as you'd see the same book flip multiple times throughout the year, and Jeff, this firsthand, working at Metropolis, working at another place that you worked at, Golden's, and even having a shop and being in this space, it's true, right? You see the same book go up for auction, someone buys it, they sell it 6 months, even less than that.
It depends on the book, right? Like, if you're going to see an action or something higher grade, they're going to come out every couple years, right? Like I was a mule when we went to Saudi Arabia, and I took a ton of those books home, the Marvel pay copy and this and that. And like, you won't see those come back to the market again. A lot of those, some of those books that are one of one in those high grades are in their forever, 1% home, and you won't see those again. But like, I think that what Greg said, that applies to a lot of like AF-15, Spider-Man 1s, the more, I want to say affordable keys, right? Like 9.8 Hulk, 181s, like that hit that 150 price, and everyone's like, "Oh, this is the next book," and now it's like 60,000 again, back to where it was or should have been, $60,000 book. I think it depends on who's saying what, right? Like it's weird. A casting might help every now and then, or the spec, but not the way it did, like Newbie just said. And I think those high books, like the more common keys, you will see them. Like there's 10,000 Hulk 181s plus on the census with a shit ton of 9.8s, right? Like they're gonna come out. So I think it depends on the book, and I don't know. This is a touchy subject. So
because again, you buy collections, and we all obviously anybody who tries to buy collections, you buy them on the low and you sell them on the high. You sell them for more. Obviously, that's really the goal. So do you still see yourself, buying collections and just being able to move product? Like,
with the shop, I've been involved with the physical brick and mortar for about realistically like 6 weeks. And over the 6 weeks being open 4 days a week, we've pulled in, I can't even tell you how many collections for store credit or like actual cash deals. And, fair. Okay, this is what you have. This is what I want to pay. Yeah, let's do it. It's not like, let me take you behind the shed and look at the dogs, look at the whatever, look up and it's over. Like from that aspect, really well. Like it's awesome. We used to go when I was Metropolis, I was one of the buyers there, and we would go, they'd fly me everywhere to go check on leads, and we'd see crazy shit. Like I saw a collection that was Superman 10 to like early 2000s. It had Batman 10 up, and Justin, you've seen the pictures. Like it's wild. You're writing like a $500,000 check to these people, and you're seeing books that you'll never see again. And that's the stuff that I think is recession proof, like Golden Age, pre-code horror, original art. Put your money into that shit, man. Like if any of these people had, and I don't want to insult anybody because it's wild, but like instead of being sheeples, like do the homework, take a step back and like use your brain, because we all have it. We all get caught up in the FOMO. I bought fucking 7 covers of this Transformers book. Like,
it's a great book.
Like,
great writing.
You know what I'm saying? So I can't wait to read it now. Thanks for this Bumblebee spoiler. But
Jeff, maybe you'd be like, and I don't want to like overstep here because I know
no.
these guys go an hour and that's it. But
no, we're good. We're good.
I think one of the biggest things too is when you look at during COVID and even just when we got out, you had a lot of influencers, and I've never done a video like this because
you draw a lot of heat. You draw a lot of heat right now.
No, well, hey, whatever. I'm pretty honest. I'm pretty honest.
Safe place. You can say anything on the podcast.
Yeah.
Shows what you look like.
But like, I've never done a video like this, but it's interesting because when we got out of COVID, and again during COVID, a lot of people were like, hey, you know, get these blue chips. These will never fail. And da-da-da. And, you know, you had just mentioned, you know, Hulk 181, you know, Tales of Suspense, Hulk 1. Yes, they're blue chips, but people were pushing these books, not necessarily pushing, but being like, hey, you know, like, you got cash, go buy this, when they were like at record prices. And now they're like half of that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm only speaking on my, you know, my experiences, like Tales of Suspense 39, 10 grand Canadian, but like, you know, I put it up for 8,500 Canadian not too long ago, and people wanted to like kill me. Like, they're like, get out of this community, that's overpriced. But it's like, you know, that's just what it is, right? Like,
ready, bro. Ready? I sold the Turtles for $250,000 in 9.8. Right? It was a $100,000. I'm sorry, $110,000 book. Before that, I think it was 90. Right? Guy put a bounty on it when they weren't moving, and it was a video game guy, right? Because everybody was paying crazy stuff. I've sold video games for like, I'll tell you off air because I don't want to disclose too much bullshit, right? But like for ungodly amounts. So you're not going to get $250 for that book again.
No.
You know what I'm saying? And like, I've seen 25 first prints. I've held them in my hand. Those gobbledygooks I'm posting. Like all you need to do is shake the right tree. And if you have enough money, you can find any fucking book. Nothing is rare. Here's a hot take. Prices aren't down, right? Like, you look, how many dollar books are now $25 books? How many $5 books are now $50 books, right? So, I mean, guess speculation has done something, right? I guess these influencers have pushed the market in the right way on a certain level, I guess, right? Maybe these foils that they're printing now are affecting, you know, the foils from the 90s. Maybe you're getting that nostalgic foil feel and you want to go build an antenna helmet. Like, I don't know what's happening, but like, there's a lot more good on like lower levels that, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, everybody just gets panicked because, like you said, the one blue chip is now maybe down, but it's only down for that small bubble and that scope that you're looking in. Because if that was really the case, you would have been making videos before talking about comic prices, you know, across the board. I don't know. Again, I'm jaded. Some people might hear this and be like, what a fucking asshole. And like, his opinion's totally skewed, but I've seen every book. I've seen shit happen that probably shouldn't happen, right? That happens at every convention, that happens behind the scenes. And it's taken the love out of what I've done over the last 15 years, right? My right-hand man, he's standing right here. Shout out to Howie. Hey. And
Hey-o.
you know, we've sold a dollar book. We've sold almost $1 million item. And now we have a brick and mortar. And over the last 6 weeks, I've never been happier because of all the fucking shenanigans that's been happening over the last 4 years, right? From now an influencing market with influencers who pump shit to fake reports on prices that, you know, are going to be more stabilized. And I see collectors of like the companies just coming in and buying stuff out. Like, everyone's selling, right? People are paying this and that. Like, the rich are getting richer. The rich are getting richer. I'm going to see collections, and I'm not even that rich, right? And trust me, I'm just a small pimple on the ass of comic book dealers. And I see these guys. I'm going to collections every week with friends I know, and they're just buying and hoarding and buying and hoarding, and people are panicking. And all the OG guys are just like, oh man, this is wonderful. You guys have fun. You came in and you thought you guys were, you know, the creme de la creme, and now you're all sinking quick. I'll take all this inventory back. We'll get all these books. And it's a wild thing, man. It's a wild thing to see. And I'm sorry I'm all over the place, but I think the comic book market will be fine. I think you'll see the variant market correct itself organically. I think you'll see people starting to see what the bottom line and the silver lining is for what certain people are pushing. And maybe this is the fever pinnacle at NYCC. And I hope that we see some blue chips get back to glory days, right? Like real books. Like 181, that's a good book. Maybe this is a hot take, but it ain't a real book.
It's a fan's book.
We should end on that note.
It ain't even the real first appearance.
No, come on. Bullshit.
Okay,
as a guy who sells comics too, bullshit.
Depends which one he has at the time.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I don't even have any of them in stock, so it doesn't matter.
Well, this has been a lot of fun. I enjoyed the State of Comics with our panel members. So before we get out of here, let's go around the horn again. where people can find you. Let's start off with Jeff, Mr. ComicDunes.
You can find me, ComicDunes, on Instagram, also on Whatnot. You can catch me at jamcomics.store on Instagram, Jam Comics on Whatnot as well, and the shop located in Lake Hopatcong, 770 South, New Jersey South. And I'm going to show this over to Zach. This is, you're reading.
Oh, I know, dude. You told me about it. Yeah.
Yeah, so here you go in all its glory. One of the
awesome,
first
bro.
appearances of the 3. And you can
All the
actually
Ghost
catch me
Riders,
as well
yeah.
next
Yeah.
week at Comic-Con booth 3605. Look for this face, even
Awesome.
though you can't see me.
Mr. Rocksteady, Greg.
Well, thank you for remembering me. I appreciate that. Yeah, you can find me on Instagram. I mostly deal through that. I don't have much else going on alone, but I join Mr. Newbie Comics here every Tuesday in the Newbieverse with BC, and come check it out. And I hear Jeff's going to be on next week.
Yeah, so we were BC was supposed to come on. Unfortunately, last minute changes, and that's it happens. That's why we always try to bring as many people as possible. Would have been great to have 6 people on here, but I think the 5 of us was perfect. I'm sure Greg's over there sitting there naked because since he's got his camera off this entire time, who knows?
He's doing that COVID Zoom shit. Oh, yes, hell yeah, dude. No, that's
and
rated
then
R.
our other man who has his own channel, does his weekly stuff. Mr. Newbie Comics, where can they find you if they don't already follow you?
You can find me at foilcomics.com.
That's taken, dude.
Oh, damn. Okay. Foilcomics2023.com. No, you can find me on Newbie Comics, YouTube, TikTok, but I don't really use it. Instagram's usually where you can find me. But yeah,
YouTube
shorts. Yeah, the short game is killing it right now. So yeah, you could find me. Just blunt, honest, fun, unscripted stuff. As many people have met me. I am how I am on screen. I don't fake it. If I don't know, I'm the first one to be like, I got no idea. So that's what you're gonna get on my channel. So come join the Newbieverse.
Awesome. Zach?
No, a lot of fun. This is kind of a special one too, because it's all friends. It's like, obviously a lot of the guys we have on the show are all comic communities, but the 5 of us here talk all the time. We have group chats where we're chatting all the time. So it's fun. It says, this is the true comic book community. And this is your buddies who aren't trying to push their books, except, Jeff trying to sell a Hulk 180 to me, which is some bullshit. Like, I'll never buy that garbage. I'm not poor, dude. So I'm not going to buy that. But yeah, no, this was a lot of fun, man. A lot of fun. Yeah, that I might buy. That I might buy. No, a lot of fun. Thanks, guys, for coming on, and we should do this more often. Actually,
you guys promised Taylor Swift talk, so
Jesus, no more.
Oh, geez, we're not going to go there. We've been doing that the past 2 weeks. So, for myself, again, I really appreciate everybody coming on. I think it was a lot of fun doing something different than articles. Hopefully, our listeners have enjoyed it. Again, if you follow us on Instagram, the shirts have been posted. We are very close to selling out the new limited edition print run of the Comic-Con Podcast Strikes Back t-shirts. I will tell you that we do have a good amount of, I think the only thing we have each size as of right now, but that can change. But they're very, very close. Medium, large, and double XL are very close to being sold out. At the moment, I only have 1 left on all those. XLs and smalls, I do still have a few. So if you want one, hit me up ASAP so we can get you one, because again, they're only limited to 5 in each size. So that's it. And then I will be at New York Comic Con next week. So thanks, everybody, panel members. We really appreciate it. And we'll see you all next week. Later.
Bye.
Peace.